Hello out there in cryptocurrency land. Welcome back to Real Crypto. Thanks for joining me once again today. All right, so we had Bitcoin making some moves today, up and down, kind of moving all over the place. Finally ending up, well, right now, I don't know about ending up, but right now we're sitting in a point where we just broke out of a small, what's called a double bottom pattern right here. Just broke out of the handle, subsequently out of the double bottom. And it looks like we're probably going to start floating higher. Probably not a big run up, not a big gap up, but we're probably going to float higher. So yesterday we discussed buying Bitcoin as it kind of broke down out of this symmetrical type of a triangle pattern. It broke up, and we went right into a head and shoulders pattern. Moved right up into a head and shoulders pattern. This head and shoulders pattern actually played out perfectly. All right, so here's our neckline and the head and shoulders. And if you do the measured move on Bitcoin here, it moves all the way down here to this low. It's almost exact to this first big red candle right there. So the head and shoulders candle played out, which pretty much, you can draw an X through that pattern and call that pattern done. So the next thing, kind of the next pattern win situation, what we end up with is something called a double bottom. You can see there's a very well-formed W pattern right here. And this W is actually called a double bottom. Not all double bottoms have a price point that are near identical. This type of a double bottom has a right, the right low is underneath and undercuts the left low. The reason being is because, at least in this particular situation, it looks like they were hunting for stops. They're going ahead and they're looking for Bitcoin, and they apparently found some underneath the low of this breakout candle over here at where's the low in this guy? The low in this guy is 88.67. The low of this was 88.63. 88.63.42. So just a few dollars underneath this low in Bitcoin. There must have been a good amount of stops sitting underneath them for there to go down and take that before they bought it back up. And you can see the volume signature here on this bottom candle is very healthy as well. So coming out of this double bottom, like I mentioned, we've subsequently had a handle on lower volume, which is very good for a handle, and then we just broke out of that handle here recently on higher volume, and now we're just kind of basing again. This isn't the type of situation where Bitcoin is likely to run, but it is a situation where Bitcoin looks like it's done going down for right now at least. We'll see what the next pattern holds. And we kind of see this when we're trading. We see pattern after pattern after pattern sometimes. This is one of those cases. Symmetrical triangle to a head and shoulders to a double bottom. Quite fascinating stuff. Now, on a bigger picture time frame, because this is the 15-minute, if you guys were wondering, this is a 15-minute time frame. All this happened on a lower term time frame. Hard to see it on a 2-hour if you pull up a 2-hour. You can still see it if you really pay attention, but really difficult to see. But since this most recent low in Bitcoin, it's given us an opportunity to draw a trend line on the bottom here and a potential trend line at the top here, looking for what could be a larger pennant in Bitcoin. And there's plenty of time for this pattern to play out. Leads us several days, in fact. Usually it likes to break out about 75% of the way through, something like that. So May 2nd, which is about a week from now, Bitcoin could do some choppy action for quite some time. Be prepared for that going forward. If you do have some stop losses in the short term, your biggest stop loss in the short term probably will be down here near about the 8,800 level, something like that, maybe a little bit higher. But if Bitcoin starts to break beneath this trend line, it will negate this pennant pattern, and then maybe we go into a channel, or it's hard to say what's next after that. We'll have to wait until that happens. But right now, looks like there's a possibility of a pennant forming. If you take the pennant out of the situation here, there's kind of a minuscule rising channel situation. Right there, you can see there's a rising channel. This rising channel generally would lead us to more downside action. So again, this bottom trend line being very important for the shorter term perspective. Going out to the longer term perspective, what we can see here is this resistance area solidly up here, 9,800 level up there, and then just a lot of action below here. Not too many places where we're going to have some definite support if we do get down. Probably this level at 8,400 will be significant due to this base formation right here. This should be a significant area. You can also consider this most recent low a test of that 8,400. I mean, it's only a few $100 away, only $200 away from 8,400, so that definitely could be considered a test. But you know, Bitcoin's future here is not looking extraordinarily certain, to be quite frank with you. It's kind of up in the air, and trading each little chart pattern, maybe being aggressive with profit taking if you're into shorter term trading. If you're into longer term trading, it's going to be difficult. We could have some swings in the price going forward that could seem bearish and bullish and be neither, and it just could be neither. So, you know, hindsight's 2020. It's hard living on the right side of the chart. Unfortunately, that's what we have to do. But at least at this moment in time, this rising trend line in Bitcoin so far is support, seems to be important. So I would give a lot of credence to this trend line at this moment in time. But yeah, so on the top side here, there's really not a whole lot going on. I don't like to draw these types of patterns. Let me delete these. I don't like to draw these types of patterns where we have highs that are not the high. I find it just a little disingenuous in regards to the analysis for whatever reason. So like arbitrarily picking this point to try to match up with this high. Basically what this means to me is that this isn't fully formed yet. All right, it's either not fully formed or there's a weird head and shoulders here, but we don't really have a left shoulder to speak of. So I really don't want to call this a head and shoulders. Although if you did, which you know I'm not, you would have to give it a neckline of this. So it's still quite a bit of movement to have. Again, this trend line would be important if we did break it. So let's take a look at some altcoins. EOS having just the run of the 2018 so far, outside of January. So since January, the run of 2018. EOS has been up, looks like about 188% to date, and we're coming up to the prior high against the dollar. You can't expect EOS to pause up here, and it's starting to do that. So something else to notice is that it got a little parabolic. If you kind of draw a curve from here and then put it there, you can actually see quite nicely without messing with the curve at all. It actually really respects the curve, and the fact that we're coming up here towards the parabolic part of it means that we're probably becoming exhausted in some way, shape, or form. Now, getting to this all-time high definitely signals that we could be due a rest. I say could because the volume signature here, to me, doesn't look like it's done. Still doesn't look like it's done. And that's saying a lot because EOS has had a massive run, as we just saw. But really good volume here. Not a lot of selling volume. I don't know what else to say about EOS. It's spectacular. If this thing's gonna break down, you need to give it a stop. Probably undercutting. Probably this area right here, this high and this low, are pretty near the same. So right there, this particular point is 1623. 1623 is that level. If it breaks down below the 1623 level, we probably are due a larger and deeper base. It's up to you if you want to take profits or not. But to be quite frank with you, I believe EOS with this kind of accumulation pattern is going to have much bigger moves ahead. I don't know if it's going to be this weekend, early this week, or in a couple of months from now. But EOS spectacular run. You have to give credit where credit is due. And another coin we've been looking at recently has been Tron, behaving very nicely. We have this nice larger base that formed in Tron. You can see we have a nice uptrend, kind of a big cup with a handle right here. Really broke out here, and subsequently doing having some nice action, a nice consolidation. Tron is not looking bad at all. It's a little high to get involved with from this breakout point, but it looks like it is just starting to come out of this base with a little bit of a pullback. It could be possible that you get involved over the 848 level with good volume. It's always predicated with good volume. Please make sure you have a stop loss in place. If you want to have a good stop loss, I would recommend at a, if you want to be very aggressive, give it to like the 805 level. But if you want to give it some room to run, depending on what your appetite for risk is, you could probably give it 7% from here, which brings us down to the 770 Satoshi level. or I mean even ultimately down here to the 712 Satoshi level. That's a 15% stop loss from this point in time. Way too deep in my opinion. But again, just depends on your perspective, depends on your time frame, your strategy, and how long you want to hold a coin for. So let's look at WAN. WAN's been one we've been following very closely, and it's been having some interesting action. WAN, very similar to Tron, having this much larger base forming here. I believe we discussed in the Power Hour a purchase right here on the break of this declining trend line. I believe we got in WAN right here, and then it popped up and then consolidated all the way back down to the breakout point. Having a very good a very good entry point in your trades can be extremely important for holding. So, but WAN right now looking good. Volume is declining, price is rising. That's generally not a good thing, but this doesn't look like a very aggressive rise. I would anticipate this to probably keep crawling up, but there's not a lot of momentum built into WAN. So maybe be a little bit defensive with this position. There's kind of a trend line here. Let's make it a longer trend line actually. So this is kind of our most recent trend line, and when this needs to be respected for this uptrend to continue. If this fails, we're probably going to go into a deeper consolidation. There was a couple other cryptocurrencies that were doing pretty good. I just forgot what it was. It was Icon. So let's take a look at ICX, up 13%. We've been looking at a large cup and handle with Icon. All right, so there's your cup. Here's your handle. So let's back out a little bit so you can see that better. I mean, there's quite a bit of history here in Icon. I think it's important to get the full picture. And there you go. We've got a very large drop, a very large consolidation, a huge cup right here. You can see the handle forming right here, and subsequent breakout today. It's a little late to get involved here. You know, sitting at about 8.75% higher. But look at the volume coming in very healthy. And then we did have a nice throwback, however, down into the breakout point, and then again a subsequent breakout. So we're a little extended, only 4% out from this most recent consolidation high. Maybe could get involved, but I would keep your position small just in case you get a pullback, because your natural stop loss is going to be back here towards the 46,000 Satoshi level, and that's going to give you an 11% stop loss. That's a very deep stop loss. That's not something I generally would recommend trading on that. And if you do, it does need to be a smaller position. So, all right, there's a couple altcoins we've been looking at. Like I said, Bitcoin really looking indecisive here. A couple things happening with it. We have this trend line here, which I think is very valuable. I'll go ahead and bold that. I think that's a very valuable trend line. If we break beneath this, then it's going to take much longer to consolidate. But if we can stay above this, like I said, we may run into a situation where we have some kind of a pennant, and then, you know, we're basically off to the races at that point. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining me today. I appreciate it. I'll see you guys next time.